Right, back alive again. Yeah, hopefully. Hear the mic's working. Right, fucking in. Oh yeah, it is. Bit crackly though. Hear the mic's working. Yeah. Right, fucking in. Yeah, well sorry about that. Fucking coughed in it, oh the bastard. Computer just froze up. I was like, no. Like what? So I'll do part two. We'll get back to them pictures. Where was we? Oh, it wasn't there. Yeah. I tell you. Streamlabs, you shite bastards. All this messing around because you can't do a streaming service. Honestly. Yeah, well, there we go. There we go. What's up, man? Yeah, I know who's fucking attacking me, the bastards. Soy-head bitches don't want this masculine action to go down. But anyway, let's fucking get this interviewer again. Come on. I think you're messing me around with this, honestly. But great film though, great film. Only not even halfway through, I don't think yet. Oh, there we go. Yeah, CPUs might be able to run in that. Might be too much masculine action for it. Come on, stop fucking around. Get the fucking screen on, you fucks. It's Windows sharing, you cunts. Why ain't this fucking sharing? You don't want me to fucking show you this masculine action. It's like, oh no, sign-head bitches, you fucking commie fucking cunts. Fuck you, I'm gonna be showing this shit if it takes me all fucking night, so don't be fucking thinking I'm not. Pieces of shit, honestly. I just play the fucking thing. Oh. maybe if, only works on A1. Don't know. Oh, there we go. Let's fast forward it. Loads of action in Bond films, loads of action, loads of screenshots. I'll have to put a time stamp on this fucking. Luckily enough, I've learned how to do fucking time stamps. So there we go, yeah, boots him, yeah, it's those all drag him, yeah, smash it, grabs it, his fucking like little bullet chain off his neck and that, yeah. And oh, throws that, yeah. Dallas Machine takes his gun and like throws it, gets the gun, there we go. Then he throws the bed sort of like that's on fire towards Bond, where it sort of like makes Bond sort of get squashed a little bit. And then he runs out, like a nurse and the doctor like coming through, so Bond can't shoot him. Where Bond then chases him out, looks at the fucking little bullet chain thing that he'd got, and like the sprinkler had gone off now because there's a fire in that. Well, puts it in his pocket, sort of thing. Then you see Links where she's set up some C4, and she puts on a little 3-minute detonator timer, where it's like bangs it into the files and that. Well, Bond comes out, sort of thing. He's so look around, sees Jinx, where she's all like, "Oh, James," he's all like, "Get out," sort of thing. Well, then he sees fuck. Just got to fucking start. Not Zowl. Yeah, see Zowl coming out, so he like gives chase and that, where he tells Jinx to get out, sort of thing. Well, he sees him, sort of thing, shoots at him, but Zowl jumps out of a window and like fucking and like lands. Well, fucking Bond is gonna go to the window, but the bomb that Jinx planted explodes, where you see Zal running off and that. Well, a bit of a cave-in, even though it's not in a cave, happens, so that exit is blocked. Bond then picks himself up off the floor, sees fucking Jinx's sort of records and that are not fully burnt, and sees the dead doctor and that, knows like, oh yeah, she's no ordinary sort of punter. Then you see fucking Zowl running, where Jinx is running after him with a gun. But then Bond gets these two oxygen tanks. Jinx sort of like gets to a place where she starts shooting, and so they do shoot back, but then she shoots one of them. Where then Bond, he like knocks the valve off, so the oxygen tanks flies through the wall, blowing it fucking totally. Probably when the oxygen tank got crushed, it just exploded. But anyway, then Zowl and one of his sort of like henchmen, who probably has been told like Zowl is a proper fucking um, special customer, make sure he's safe, because he dragged some other dude out. Well, Bond sees them and that, but they sort of like take off. Where Jinx, flashing her ass off, shoots the dude and that. For, like, probably aiming at Zowl, but she takes out the other dude. But the helicopter flies off anyway. Well, then Jinx is left with two guards, sort of like holding her sort of at gunpoint. Where then she goes to the side, drops a gun and that. Where Bond comes up, hards his gun. Well, then she takes off a top where she's got a bikini on, and then like does a backflip backwards where they all look, and she sort of like dives into the sort of like seat where she gets onto a boat where it's one of her contacts, where you find out like later on she's working for her agency. Well, then the guards sort of like leave. Like Bond then looks inside the chain that he took off Zowl, where he sees it's got some diamonds in, and that. Well, he goes back to Royale, and that, where they're checking them. And yeah. Well, you see, but a little sort of sign, like a little mark in that, where Royale, oh, Royale, he says that it's a like counterfeit diamond that's owned by Gustav Graves, and it's his corporation, like who owns it. Says it's two G's and that, where you can see, but one of the G's is backwards, so it's really one G and then a backward facing G. But anyway, they sort of like fucking found out like, oh yeah, Graves is like got counterfeit, not counterfeit, Syria Rion conflict diamonds, yeah. Well, he tells Bond like, oh yeah, this Gustav Graves, he owns it and that. Well, then you see then you see Miss Money Penny listening to a conversation and that, and Robin sees like looks, asks if there's any news and that, says like no sort of thing, just like airing conversation where he goes in and M's getting bawled at by Falco, who's fucking pissed off that she let Bond escape. He's like saying, "Oh yeah, you had him on a ship and everything. How how did he escape?" Well, anyway, um, yeah, he tells her like fucking to get Bond, fucking, oh yeah, to find out where Bond isn't getting back, sort of thing, and that. Stop fucking around. Well, then you see a British Airways plane where Bond's on it, and he could have shagged this stewardess, but we don't see it. He could have shagged another stewardess, but we don't see it. So it can't be classed as a shag. But anyway, she brings him a vodka martini and that, where he's looking at an article of Gustav Graves, who's the king of diamonds, and that. Well, then you see it's in London, and there's a press conference going on where they're waiting for Gustav Graves to turn up, and then Miranda, she's all like, "Oh yeah, he'll turn up all right." Well, then you see Gustav jumping out of a plane and that, parachutes down to like Buckingham Palace, I think it is, outside of it anyway. Like lands and that, sort of claims like he don't sleep. He's fucking a hard worker in that, and his adoptive country or nation in that, and that's talking about his press conference sort of thing that he'll be doing in Iceland, where he's gonna reveal his sort of super fucking um, like machine called Icarus. Well, we all asking that, but you're like, oh well, he's got to go now, sort of thing. And oh yeah, then they ask him about his fencing because he could be fencing for like Britain or whatever, like that sword fighting and that. Well, Bond sees this and now he's checking him out, and you're like, all right, this is the Gustav Graves dude. Well, then he's um, booked himself a fucking fencing lesson with Madonna, and Madonna's like, oh yeah, tie me up, sort of thing, because back straps a bit loose and that, where Bond does it and that. And then he's like talking to her, and he's talking about Graves and that, and she's all like, "Oh yeah, he's a good fencer," but um, Miranda's the better fencer who won gold. But like Bond was like, "Oh yeah, but she only won gold because her opponent was disqualified for taking steroids or drugs or whatever." And that. Yeah, she's like, well, she's still the best in that. Well, anyway, but Don's like, all right, we'll go over and meet them, sort of thing. and well, in fact, it's not a lesson. I think he's just there to like fence people, get a practice, and I think he was there to have a practice with her, but she thinks like, oh yeah, it's good that I don't need to really practice with her. He can like test out his thingy. Well, anyway, goes over to fucking Gustav Graves and that, and then he's like, oh, have we met before? Which is a bit of a fucking clue to what happens later on. But anyway, Bond's like, no, I don't think we have. But anyway, then Gustav gets onto the conversation of playing £1,000 a point on fencing in the best out of three. Well, anyway, Bond and Gustav Graves like start sword fighting and that fencing, where Gustav Graves gets the first point in and that, and then he gets the second point and wins. So then Bond's all like, oh yeah, well, shall we play for another game, up the stakes a bit? And then he shows him the diamond that's got his sort of brand mark on, which he knows, oh yeah, the fucking illegal diamonds, and so he wants to cover up his sort of like track sort of thing. Well, or even if he don't, he just wants a diamond anyway, because he's real competitive. You find that he admits like he's real competitive, but anyway, Bond says like, oh yeah, he picks him up in Cuba and that, and says, oh yeah, they're about African conflict diamonds. Look, like, well anyway, Gustav Graves, he's fucking pissed off, and so he's like, right, fuck it, come on then, we'll have a fucking another battle for it, another sword fight for it. Well anyway, starts a sword fight where then Bond like stabs him in his wrist, and it doesn't fucking draw blood or out, but it fucking fucks him up that he drops his sword and that, and then Bond's all like, oh, sorry about that, you know, are you alright? Well anyway, then Graves, he's all like, fuck it, let's it's in the stakes, alright, let's fucking put up the swords and that, let's put up the competition, where he grabs some the swords and that, and says, oh yeah, it's a grabs the sword and says, oh yeah, it's going old school, first to draw blood from the torso, which is like the stomach or the body, is the winner. Well anyway, so both get the swords and that, start sword fighting, where one of the fencing scoring machines gets took out. Bond ducks it. Then there's a bit more sword fighting where Graves cuts Bond, but only on the leg. So he's still fucking. He ain't won. It's got to be on the body. Well, then Bond cuts fucking Graves' ear, where then you have a bit of a sword fight. Well, yeah, cuts his ear in that, where fucking they have a bit of a more sword fight. Oh, fucking done the fucking. He cuts his ear, like, he cuts his ear, where fucking. Then they have a bit more of a sword fight, where fucking Bond gets pushed back onto like the furniture, breaks it up and that. Well, then he gets took into like the fucking hallways and that, where they're not even supposed to be fighting here. This is sort of like where people chill out because the paper gets fucking cut into and that. Pretty good sword fight scene. I saw a dude fucking like did a review on how fucking realistic it was, and saying like, yeah, they want the greatest of sword fights, but said like it was decent enough, you know, because they're not supposed to be the greatest sword fighters. They're just supposed to be sort of like two dudes who can use a sword, but they go a bit crazy and that. Well, anyway, the fight fucking goes where Graves cuts the fucking painting and that. Well, then Bond grabs him in that, where then Graves starts elbowing him, where they start to like tussle a bit. Throws his sword at Bond, but it misses him as he's running in. Then Graves grabs the samurai sword. Then they have a bit of a standoff where fucking Graves cuts Bond's sword in, because samurai swords are like more stronger. They're like one of the strongest swords and that, and his sword wasn't as strong. Then he goes to like stab Bond, where it goes through the fucking glass cabinet, and they drop both the swords and that. Where then they run round and grab up some Kleber swords, or Kleber. But anyway, Kleber sword. Well, anyway, start fighting and that. We were sword fighting, and then Bond gets punched over like a little wall, where he gets up and that. Still sword fighting and that. Sword fighting outside now, up these sort of like stairs, where Bond does a move sort of thing, where it's not the best of moves, but he's not supposed to be a great sword fighter. I have seen people do a better move, but anyway, he drops his sword, or he gets his sword knocked off him, so he punches Graves down and that, then has to jump over him and that to get his sword, where they have a bit of a fucking like sword clinch, where Bond throws his sword sort of like up and that, and then fucking cuts Graves' stomach, where he falls into the fucking little fountain, gets up, tries to carry on, but then Miranda, she comes and sort of like splits it up with her sword, where fucking Carver starts Graves starts laughing and that, says, oh yeah, you won, Mr. Bond, it's all fun and games and that. And like Bond's all like, yeah, okay, but he's still a bit like, oh yeah, I don't know what it is, but I'm not sure what it is, but I just don't like you, sort of thing. Well, he tells Bond, oh yeah, meet him in the lobby and that, so he can give him his check, sort of thing. Well, then he invites him to a fucking. He gives him the check and invites him to a like a presentation he's having in Iceland. That he's showing off his Icarus machine. His global health project he's doing. Anyway, then Bonds asks Miranda like she'll be there and that, but she's like, yeah, but not for you. He's like, sort of thing. Maybe next time. Anyway, then the Bell sort of hot boy, the connoisseur, go the uh, carrier dude comes over, gives Bond a letter with that someone had like fucking delivered, where he looks in it and there's a key, where he knows where this key it goes to. Must have had a note with it, because then he goes where you see it's in London and that, through a door where it leads down into the subway station that's abandoned. Well, Bond's like, oh, an abandoned station for an abandoned agent. Well, he sees them there. Says to him like, oh yeah, fucking, like, you must need me for some. What is it you wanting and that? Gives her the key back. Well, she tells him like, oh yeah, she's a bit sort of like needing his help and that, and then Bond's like, oh yeah, you're suspicious of her Graves and that, where she's all like, yeah, and that, and then he's like, oh yeah, what do you know about Graves? And she's like, oh, only what everyone knows, where he was an orphan in Argentina in a diamond mine sort of thing, doing collecting diamonds in a diamond mine, where he learns engineering and then goes over to Iceland and finds a big diamond mine sort of find, where you find out like, no, there ain't no diamonds in fucking Iceland, but he makes out there is anyway. So he can money launder these contraband diamonds. Well, anyway, and Bond, he tells her like about the clinic and that, saying, "Oh yeah, fucking like Zool was there and that, and like he found these diamonds and that way." You know, like it says like Zool was there and it was like a fucking clinic that was fucking doing plastic surgery and that shit for like um, terrorists sort of thing. Well, then he gives her the diamonds and that. Says like, oh yeah, like contraband diamonds and that, and he found them on Zool. And then he says, oh yeah, if you can find out Zool, yeah, who's backing Zool and that, fucking, then he can get more information on who fucking told Zoe who he was, blew his cover and that. Well, then you see Bond where he's like fucking in a room where you see Moneypenny dead and that, and Robinson and dead. So he's taking out these dudes and that, where Robinson gets took out, and then he takes out another two dudes, where he's just left with one dude who's got M as hostage, where he shoots M in the shoulder, sort of thing, and then shoots the dude. Where then Q comes in. As I said, now it's John Cleese is the new Q now, because he was R in the other ones, but now because Q has left, he has become Q. Well, anyway, and that was his nickname, R. Anyway, Q comes in, and he's all like, "Oh, you're not supposed to shoot your fucking people you're trying to save." And like Bond's like, "Oh yeah, I think you'll," because it turns out it was all a virtual reality sort of fucking game, training session. That like Q says, "Oh yeah, you don't shoot the victim." Well, Bond's like, "Oh well, she only had a flesh wound, and she's still alive and that." Even though it was only a virtual training exercise sort of thing. Well then Q and Bond, for fuck's sake, go into like the Q room, and like there's loads of gadgets and that they show, old ones and that. Bit of a fucking reminisce sort of thing. Well then Q shows, gets Bond's gun, shoots the glass, where it's bulletproof glass, where then he shows him this ring that he twists, puts on the glass, where the glass shatters, drops and that. Tells Bond like, here we go, let's see. Ultra high frequency single digit sonic audio unit. But yeah, in other words, it does a real high frequency noise that fucking shatters glass when it touches it. Then Bond gives him Bond his watch, which is a laser watch. Don't even tell him it's a laser watch. Just say, "Hey, there's your watch." Then shows him his Aston Martin, which is invisible. Where then Bond is a bit like, "Oh yeah, you're going crazy, Q." But no, he shows him like, "Yeah, it's not invisible." They call it's the Aston Martin Vanquish, but they call it the Aston Martin Vanish. Where he's like, "Oh yeah, right." Where shows him like the guns and that. Then gives him the manual where he tells him to shoot through it. Where Bond throws it up, the guns shoot it, and Bond's all like, "Oh yeah, well that didn't take long." Then M's talking to Miranda in her office and that, saying, "Oh yeah, fucking, you got to go on this mission to Iceland and that." Where you find out Miranda's working for MR6 and that, saying like, "Oh yeah, fucking, sort of like be there, sort of like helping Bond out and that." So she's like, right, and then he's like, "Oh, what do you know about Bond?" He's all like, "Oh yeah, he's a sex machine. I'm not going anywhere near him. I'm a good girl," sort of shit. Then looks at her like report and that. It seems to be all good. Fucking pictures. Anyway, yeah. Looks, see, oh yeah. It's good sort of fucking stuff, and like says, "Oh yeah, you've been 3 months with Graves, but you haven't found out." But she says it's clean, and then M talks about cryptology that she's like good at, where that just means fucking working out uncoded messages and that, and uncoding them. Well, she tells her to go to fucking Iceland and that, where you see sort of like Iceland, where you see Bond in the car going up to this sort of like ice palace thing, hotel, where he turns up, gets greeted by Mr. Kill. Oh, Bond says, "Oh yeah, that's the name to die for," which Mr. Kill don't fucking find too amusing. But then Bond, he sees fucking speed snow fucking, I think, jet speed, I think, where Graves is in it and that, but he don't really know this at the time. He's just seeing it. Well, then it does his parachute and that, comes to a stop where it's right near him, where he sees him get out. Now he knows, like, oh yeah, it's Graves, I think. Well, his coach sort of like, and his mechanic dude who makes everything for him says, "Oh yeah, great fucking time and that, you did great." Well, Graves, he's like, "Oh yeah, well, oh yeah," he says, "Oh yeah, you did 324 miles per hour as a new personal best." Well, Graves, he's like, "Oh, the thruster 2 went out, so fucking sort it out and that." Uh, uh, oh yeah. Well, anyway, gets out, starts talking to Bond and that. Says like he never sleeps and that, and fucking, so he can do all this shit. And he says, oh yeah, so like, make yourself at home and that. Well, he's talking to her, Miranda, where he's asking her sort of like fucking, oh, what's that sort of like building like next to this sort of hotel, where she tells him it's where fucking the Diamond Mine is, and where fucking Graves fucking living quarters are and that. Where like, oh yeah, where she like takes him to his room, shows him around and that, where like, oh yeah, this looks nice and that. Fucking like, did you want to stay? But she's like, no, you're alright. And then it's at the like fucking sort of bar sort of thing later on, where Bond orders a vodka martini, sees Jinx there, but she's not using Jinx's name, and he's like, oh yeah, thought you was Jinx, but she's like, oh, I always will be to you, sort of thing. And then like, you see fucking a car turn up to the fucking like Diamond Man, and where fucking Greaves, Graves, um, living quarters are. Where you see a hooded figure get out, goes through, where you see Graves on this face machine. That Zowl comes through, takes the face machine off um, Graves, where he start like talking about his face, where you find out that this ain't Graves, this is fucking, well, it is great, but he's changed his name. It's General Moon, who Bond thought he'd killed at the beginning of the film, and his dad thought he was dead and all, but no. Don't know how he survived, but however he survived, he must have got to shore and that. Thought, fuck it, I'm gonna fucking, or maybe he was rescued and then fucking brought back to health, and he's thought, fuck it, I won't go back to the army. I'll fucking get these diamonds that fucking I know where I can get them, and change my face and pretend to be an orphan from Argentina, and start to fucking make money by telling everyone I've got a diamond mine in fucking Iceland, which is a bit suspicious, but anyway, they've gone along with it, sort of thing. It's like, oh yeah, there's loads of diamonds in Iceland, but he's convinced everyone anyway with his face reconstruction. So he must have gone to Doctor Alvarez and had his like face changed. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, get me a fake Argentinian passport. We're going to fucking Iceland to pretend we've found a diamond mine." Well, anyway, he sees like, yeah, the diamonds in Zol's face. He's all like, oh yeah, you're alright, sort of thing. Fucking, like, we'll get you sort of like done in that. But then you find out one of the side effects of this face retransplant, sort of like face moulding sort of fucking mask sort of thing, is you have insomnia where you can't fucking sleep. And so he wasn't lying when he said, oh yeah, he hardly sleeps because he tells Owl about the side effects is that he can't sleep, and the dream machine that he was on, which also fucking keeps his face sort of like looking like a westerner probably and all, only gives him 1 hour of sleep. But yeah, well, then Miranda, she comes to say, oh yeah, the presentation is going to start in 5 minutes and that, so they go out and that, where fucking, you see Greaves giving his speech and that, and like he's talking about how he's going to bring prosperity to the world by fucking having a second son, so you can like have crops grown in places where there's no sun, or there ain't enough sun to grow them and that, and other beneficial things where he says he can light up sort of fucking dark places, probably on like searches sort of thing, where it'll save everyone having a flashlight if you just sort of like make it daytime. Okay, because then you see like Bond and Jinx listening to this, and these North Korean generals who are there, sort of like by his side. They know he's Colonel Moon. So, but anyway, he goes on, and that, then he's like, "Oh yeah, here's for the demonstration," sort of shit. Where he presses a button, where you see this sort of like fucking satellite sort of thing start expanding, this big massive sort of fucking like metal cloth, like tinfoil sort of thing, where it expands out and that to where it starts reflecting the sun and that into the fucking presentation sort of grounds, where fucking General Graves says like, oh, General Graves, fucking hell, Graves, always General Moon, starts to like say like he can bring the sun light to the darkness and all that. Well, anyway, everyone's like amazed by this, And he's like, okay, that's it, sort of thing. Show's over. Where his mechanic mate, who fucking like built everything, I think, and that, because he's real smart. He takes control of the control sort of unit. Where Bond sees this and that. And like Mr. Kill, he sort of like carries it off. Where they go into the private sort of man sort of place where they claim that they're digging up diamonds, but they're not. They're just importing them from like Africa and that. Well, oh, Bond, he sort of like sees them go in and that, where they like go through these gates and that, and then through these doors, where Bond gets into his visible car and sort of like creeps in behind before they shut the gates, probably. Or presumably. Well, he sees like them go in and that. Sees like them scanning a hand scanner to get in there. Well, Bond like and gets out. He leaves the car in a place where nobody fucking goes because nobody fucking slams into it. Must be in a right far away corner. But anyway, Bond gets out and has a look inside the fucking place where he sees like a little spa, sort of little hot spa where you get them, sort of thing. Where then Graves sort of comes in, sort of like asks if the fucking thing's done to his mechanic mate, or like gets up and that. So it says, "Oh yeah, here we go. This is sort of like a more of a hand control sort of thing. Like you don't need to carry that big suitcase around." Well then, Bond gets spotted and that, where the dude's like, "Oh yeah, turn around" and that. Where Bond turns around, the dude comes up behind him and that to go check him for weapons and that. Where Bond sort of like spins round and punches him and that. Where he knocks him out. Then like runs and hides sort of thing. Fuck's sake, that's another one that's not supposed to be there. Well, these guys come out to investigate, where Bond sees this sort of like steamed sort of like hyphen sort of thing, where starts to turn the fucking valve on and that, where all this fucking steam and that comes. Don't it or snow or whatever it is. It could be a. But anyway, whatever it is, it comes out, fucks the guards up, so they're like fucked up. Then the intruder alert alarm goes off, where fucking Graves sees it and that. Well, Bond sort of like strolls out of there, sort of thing. Well, the guards come out to check, see what's happening. Where then Bond gets grabbed by Miranda, who starts to fucking kiss him and that. He says like, warned her about this and that should fall in love with him and that. And then Bond's all like, oh yeah, well, we'll have to go back to my room, sort of thing. And gives her another kiss, sort of thing, and that. So he says, oh yeah, make sure like the fucking cover and that of the guards gone yet. Where he says, oh yeah, they went ages ago. Well, anyway, then you see Jinx sort of like opens up the roof and that with like some explosives. Not real big explosives, but enough to get that roof off, or that panel bit off the roof, where she like gets lowered down by a winch sort of thing, a little mini winch that's she has tied to her belt. Where she gets it there, takes off the belt and that. Well, Bond and Miranda are in his room and he's like, oh yeah, you have to stay the night to fuck it, make it look convincing. Well, then he puts his gun underneath his pillow and he starts to get off with her in that, where he gets his second shag. Well, Jinx, she sort of like sees some lights and that in this sort of like Diamond Man thing that like they're claiming it is, but it's not. It's just made to look like one. Well, she sees like Zowl underneath the sort of like dream machine fucking face real machine, I think it is. I don't know, but or it could be just to keep him dreaming. But I'm sure it helps him fucking bit like a dialysis, not bit like a chemo sort of therapy where it helps him. Well, anyway, before she can do out, she gets electrocuted, and then back where Bond's all like, "Oh yeah, you need to get out," sort of thing. And I'm gonna go and like find where Zowl is and that. You need to leave. Then he leaves. Where now Zowl, he's got the electric glove and that Graves lent him, but you don't see this, but it was Graves who electrocuted her. But anyway, he wakes her back up by electrocuting her, and that. Well, then you see Bond. He gets his laser watch out, burns a fucking like hole in the ground, where then is back to where fucking Zowl is questioning fucking Jinx, but Jinx won't say shit, so he's just like, alright, well, fucking just kill her. Where he offers Mr. Kill the gun, but Mr. Kill wants to do it with the laser. Says it, but then Zal says, "Oh yeah, well don't make it messy." But it probably is going to be a bit messy. But anyway, says no. Okay then, sort of thing. Well, then he like puts the laser on and that. Well, then you see Bond. That's like got an old fucking done with his laser watch in the ice that he dives into, swims with one of them little air canister fucking oxygen breathing things that they have in Bond films. Well, he chucks it and that, gets up through the little spa sort of thing, where it's like supposed to be warm and that. Checks around and that, makes sure he don't get, well, he nearly gets spotted, but luckily enough he don't. Sees like the cable that Jinx came down on. Well, then he gets to fucking place where they've got Jinx and they're gonna be like cutting her head off, sort of thing. Where she tells him to tear it off, so he does. But when he does, Mr. Kill grabs him from behind, where he's sort of like fighting and that. Then he starts slamming his head with the remote, well, with the control panel, sort of thing. That then all the lasers come on. Then Bond starts fighting and that, making sure he don't get fucking done in by the lasers. Where Mr. Kill fucking grabs him and starts punching him in the stomach, throws him down and that. Gets slightly fucking laser beamed. Luckily enough, he didn't get his skin, just his jumper. Well then, Mr. Kill goes for a punch where Bond grabs his arm, kicks his legs underneath him, so he goes flying on the floor. Well, Jinx tells Bond to fucking turn off the fucking lasers, so Bond jumps, grabs the control, and that turns the lasers off. But then Mr. Kill fucking slams him over and punctures him, grabs him up, starts to choke him, gets out a little fucking hair comb that he's got in his like hair and that. Tries to like fucking stab Bond with it and that. Well then Jinx gets the remote because it's swinging and she catches it, where she presses the like controller to like get the angle onto his head, and then she like turns it on and shoots a laser beam through Mr. Kill's head, where it just misses Bond and that. And then he goes over to Jinx and that. He's all like, oh yeah. Like fucking. Oh yeah. Bond's like, oh yeah, we wait, and she says like she's working for the NSA sort of thing. Says like Sal is back there, and so like, because he told her and all. He said, "Oh yeah, this man is fake, but the lasers are real and all." Anyway, Bond lets her go, freeze her and that. Then they're in a room where they need a handprint, where Bond tries to move Mr. Kill, but a bit heavy, so Jinx cuts off his hand, where she slams it on the palm read print reader, where it comes up as as positive RD, where it opens at the door, where Bond says, "Oh yeah, go get back up, get Miranda," and that. Well, then Bond goes up the stairs and that. Well, then you see Graves come into his room and that, because he knew like he had a face machine and that, and so he's figured out like, oh yeah, well if he's got a face machine thing, then he's probably fucking had his face done, and the only person who knows Zhao, who was mates with him, was that General Moon. Oh, I mean, Colonel Moon. And so he's worked out that Greaves is Colonel Moon, where he goes in, Bond's all like, oh yeah. So I think, like, Colonel Moon, where he's like, oh yeah, he finally worked it out, sort of thing. And yeah, well, Bond's all like, yeah, so I think I worked it out, fucking, like, now, who's the informant that fucking told you that I was James Bond and that? Who was the one that fucking gived out my information to your fucking intel fucking operatives, so I got locked up for 14 months. Well, uh, Graves, he ain't saying shit and that. Well, then Miranda comes in. She has a gun on him and that. And then he's all like, oh, you don't know who your friends are, do you? Well, anyway. Then she points the gun at Bond, where Bond tries to shoot her, but he's got no bullets and that. Where he chucks the gun and that. And like then Graves says, oh yeah, the informant, you didn't know it was under your nose. Well, you find out Miranda was the informant. Miranda was the one who grassed up Bond when they probably showed her a picture of James Bond. Well, Zhao, when he's like took the picture of Bond and he sent it to like loads of people, and she's probably been like, oh yeah, I know who that is, that's James Bond. And that's why it came back to Zhao, like, oh yeah, it's James Bond, it's not fucking the diamond seller, Van Summer, it's James Bond. And so you find out that Miranda was the fucking mole inside informant fucking and that, where then fucking Graves tells fucking Bond that, yeah, your weakness is women and that, and isn't Miranda's weakness is winning. And he says like he helped Miranda win the gold medal by fucking drugging up and giving her an overdose apparently and all of drugs. The one who won the gold medal, and so she got disqualified, giving Miranda the gold medal. So basically, he'd cheated for Miranda, and then Miranda was like, "Oh yeah, well I'll fucking turn," and that, where he's like, "Yeah, he was saying he shags her and everything, saying like she." Once he helped to win the gold medal, she was basically his to do anything with. He should do anything for him. Well, um, then you see Jinx looking for Miranda, where she goes into a room, but then the doors sort of like shut, close, and so she can't get out. Where then like fucking Bond sort of like there and fucking tells him to give him his watch of her. So Bond gives the watch to Zaul. Makes a fucking snarly comment of, "Oh yeah, you've got a sparkling fucking person. I missed your sparkling personality." Where Zaul replies with, "Oh no," he punctures him, and then replies with, "Oh well, there's the punchline." Uh, well, then Miranda's gonna sort of like put a bullet in Bond's head and that, because it's time to fucking get rid of Bond. Where then Bond turns on the ring, puts his hand on the glass that they stood on. Where this is a good fucking stunt, this bit. Where they both sort of like collapse, go down. Obviously, there have been fucking safety crash mats at the bottom there. Well, yeah, they go down, and then like you see Bond where he jumps onto the floor, runs off, where Zal and Miranda try shooting at him, but he gets out of there. Where then Graves, he's all like, "Kill him quite quickly or quietly." Don't want to think about it. So then Zaul runs off. I think it's quickly anyway. There might be a spelling mistake there, because I'm sure he says do it quickly. But anyway, Bond's running off and that, where he's getting shot at and that. But he gets to where the fucking cable winch sort of thing is, where he hooks himself on. Don't know exactly how he gets himself. I think it's one of them cable winches where you tug it once and it starts, because like he starts to go up and that where they're trying to shoot at him, but no use. He gets up there and that. Gets to the top where two guys at the bottom try shooting at him, but they miss and that hit the sort of like ceiling where another dude gets a machine gun out, but then Bond, he's on top of the roof where he puts on another cable to like run down the sort of like glass, or it could be plastic domes, but anyway, the see-through and that. Well, he gets to the bottom and that, where Zal is running out and that after him, where Bond runs to these sort of like jet sort of fucking ski thing. Oh, ski. Well, anyway, Zal and the men sort of like see him, but they know it's a bit too late because he gets in, starts it up and just burns off. Where Graves, he's all like, alright. And so, okay, bring me the generals. Where then the generals come in, and then he's all, Graves all like, oh yeah, I'm going to show you a demonstration of Icarus. Where they're all like, oh, okay then. Just bow their heads, they don't say anything. Just bow their heads and that. But they're like, oh yeah, here we go, watch this lads, sort of thing. Where he gets like Icarus turned on and that. Gets it all started up. Presses some buttons on his fucking wrist controller now. That it starts to fucking beam a laser beam now. Because instead of fucking spreading the sunlight everywhere, it's a concentrated blast that he's using now. Which you found out that is so-called fucking well fucking sun machine is really a big laser fucking machine. Well, anyway, says like, oh yeah, it'll lock onto the heat signal of Bond and fucking track him down, where it starts to fucking burn the fuck out of the ice and that, like melt the shit out of it, where it's chasing Bond and that, where yeah, they lock onto him and that. It says like can get his heat sequence, heat fucking register sort of thing. It's heat signal sort of thing. Well, signature, that's it, his heat signature. Locks onto his heat signature. Well, then he gets to a like forest little bit where he hits one of the fucking trees and rips off one of the like little side wings, but goes all through the trees. But now he's and got his little side wings, but he's still got his boosters that like are boosting him in that. Where you can see here, it's real small here, but that's where he is. Anyway, I know, right bad pixels, but that's where he is. So you Now you can see where he is. You sort of like can see like the distance now. Like, but anyway, I forget his name, but he's like the mechanic and the technical wizard of the team, and also his coach, his sports coach. Well, anyway, he looks at his fucking clock that he's timing, his little stopwatch that he's timing. Well, he goes over and bit of a daft cunt says, "Oh yeah, he's beating your time," which is probably because he don't give a fuck about wrecking it. He's just trying to get the fuck out of there. Well, Graves gives him a look to say fuck off, and so he does. Well, then they're locking on to him in that fucking really fucking trying to get him like laser beamed. Well, he's coming to the edge of the fucking sort of ice road sort of thing. Like, well, it throws out the braking system that hooks on, where it flies off the end, but the cable with the braking system, luckily enough, fucking latches on enough that is hanging off the side of the ice cliff. Well, Bonnie gets out, gets the sort of back panel off, grabs the parachute out of the back panel because he didn't deploy it. Because another reason probably why he beat his records because he didn't deploy his parachute. And then you see fucking Graves sort of like get the sort of control system, lock onto the point where Bond is, and blasts at it where it takes the full sort of cliff off sort of thing, starts to fucking like slither off, sort of slide off sort of thing, where Bond gets the panel near his feet, starts collapsing, goes into the water and that, causes a bit of a tidal wave. Well then Graves, he fucking makes a joke about global warming being a terrible thing, even though he caused it, didn't he, sort of thing, and so he's having a bit of a laugh. Well, the generals are like, "Oh, alright, yeah, that is a good fucking shit, that, yeah, we'll give you a honourable bow." Well, then you see Bond, and this is where the CGI came in, because this is like CGI, as you can tell. But and Bond, you see him sort of like windsurfing, or parachute surfing, should I say? Well, it's a pretty good scene for CGI and that, for its day anyway. Where yeah, Bond he's sort of like surfing and parachute in paragliding sort of thing, where you see like loads of like big icebergs and that. And as I say, for its day, the CGI wasn't so bad. Obviously now you can tell when you see it, it's like, oh yeah, that's fucking CGI'd. Yeah. Well, anyway, gets to this part where he sees this sort of like ice ramp, where he goes up the ice ramp, fucking gets himself as much fucking airtime as he can, where he gets on to the safe part of where the little tidal wave can't get him, lands, like clicks up the parachute and that. Well, then you see fucking Zao coming open the door where Jinx boots him in the face, gets him totally underwet, and she sort of like wants to fight more, but the guards have the gut going on her and that. Where Zal gets up really quick because he's a bit pissed off because she blindsided him, sort of thing. Took a cheap shot and caught him unaware, so he's wanting a rematch. Where Miranda stops him in that. She says like, no, sort of like she's not worth it. Well, anyway, um, Jinx, like, all she wants to do really is just piss off Jinx. Miranda just wants to piss off Jinx because Miranda tells Jinx that Bond is dead and that. And so, okay, Zal got a boot in the face just because Miranda wanted to go tell Jinx that Bond was dead. Well, anyway, she does it, and then she like gets the door shut in her face, sort of thing. Well, then you see this fucking dude on a jet ski, sort of like cruising around. Well, then you see Bond pulling the like parachute rope where it fucking twangs up into the dude's face, even though this is a fucking dummy, because you can tell because fucking it flies off back like that. It's like, no way. But then it just changes into a dude where the dude just lands on the floor, just fucking like, unconscious. Just lies there. Anyway, whilst he's laid there fucking unconscious, or maybe dead, we don't know, Bond runs, goes onto the fucking snow speeder and just burns off. He's like, yep, see you later. Well then, Graves and Zao like fucking are moving out, sort of thing, with the troops, and he's like, soon we'll be victorious and that. We see Bond going back to the ice planet and that, where he sees a fucking like Boeing sort of plane, Boeing 47 sort of plane, cargo plane going over. Well, Zal says, oh yeah, okay everybody, sort of like, fucking, let's move out. Well, Bond gets back to the fucking ice hotel come fucking Diamond Man place. Well, fake Diamond Man place. Where he sees like it's guarded and that, so he uses his car key, sort of remote control car key, to like get the invisible car going. Where I say he's parked it in a place where no one's gone, because then he sort of like gets the car sort of to reverse back and that to a place where he can get in it now. Gets in it, bangs on the thermal imaging where it scans around. Well, whilst it's doing that, he takes off his jumper, but a snow speeder's speeding behind, where he obviously, because it's an invisible car, he doesn't see it, smacks into it, flies right over the bonnet and that, where Bond's like, oh shit. Well, Zal sees this, is like, all units report in that shit, and so then like he runs to his car. Bond's like, oh fuck that, I'm getting out of here, where he burns out of there. Zal gets in, puts on his thermal imaging where he can see Bond's car and that. So chases after him, gets his sort of like Gatling sort of cannon, Gatling gun cannon that like comes out of the back of his car, sort of thing. He presses a button and it tracks out. Well, it shoots Bond's car and that, where the camouflage system fails and that. Well, then they're like bombing, burning around on the ice, sort of shooting and that. Well, Bond thermal images comes on and he can see like Jinx's heat signal in red. Well, Jinx, she tries to like short circuit the panel, but he doesn't do out, sort of thing. So she's like, oh bastard. Well, then Zoe's firing fuck at Bond and that, where he's shooting the shit out of the ice. Well, Bond does an handbrake turn where he starts reversing, activates some fucking rocket launchers at the front, where then Zal, he activates some rocket launchers at the front. Now this fucking car scene is one of the best battle car scenes you're going to see. Not the best chase car scene, but the best battle car scene, because there's fucking missiles get fired and sort of like blow each other's missiles up and that. Where then you see fucking Graves, who's really fucking Colonel Moon, going on the plane that landed with Miranda and the machine, where you see there's a helicopter there. Then you see fucking Zal firing rockets at Bond, where fucking it hits near him, that it blasts him up, that he goes onto his roof, where he's sliding along, where if the invisible fucking camouflage system would be fucked after this, but apparently it still worked. So. Well, Bond, he opens the roof, where then Zal fires another missile, where Bond uses the ejector seat that pushes, ejects out and pushes his Aston Martin back onto like four wheels again, just missing the missile. He bangs on the fucking close the roof again. Okay. Then Zowel burns off in front of Bond, where then he gets his rear motors going, where Bond gets his front cannons going, where Zal starts firing his back motors, where Bond shoots them, where Bond uses his fucking front cannons to shoot them, where they explode and that. Then you see on the plane where he's got a nice little gym going and that, where he puts the Icarus controls on the table and that. Where you see he's got his gloves and wrist now thing, where he turns it on, starts blasting fucking the ice hotel palace thing. And then Bond, he rams at the back of Zowel. That makes him go off into a spin and that, where he can get in front of him to get back to the ice hotel, where there's two fucking snow speed bikes guards there that see Bond come up, so start shooting like shit out of it, but Bond's car's bulletproof. That they probably might have known, but they give it a chance. Well, anyway, Bond just smashes into them, where they go fucking flying. The speed bikes hit into the fucking snow speed bikes into the wall, and they go flying like left and right and that. Well, then Bond smashes into the ice fucking hotel palace. Starts driving around and that, where then Zowel, he fucking joins in, chasing him around and that. Well, then you see Jinx, where now because the ice palace has been hit with the Icarus laser, it's melting all the walls and that's filling up with water. Like you see the water going where Zowel, he's hitting into the ice pillars. Don't know if fucking he's doing it on purpose or not, but he's hitting them anyway. Gets his Gatling cannon out, starts blasting at Bond, where Bond, he's sort of like able to like take the bullet hits and that. Well, then you see Jinx, where she's fucking really in deep water sort of thing. Well, Zowel's still chasing Bond and that, and they're going up round this sort of spiral case sort of thing, or spiral path. Where Zowel gets out his missiles, fires one at Bond and that, but misses. Right, then you see the fucking ice hotel crumbling a bit. Then you see Jinx, she's fucking getting up to where there's no sort of room. And Zal fires another fucking rocket that misses Bond, hits the side of the fucking wall. Now you see the fucking ice hotel really collapsing and that. Where you see Jinx, who's now underwater. Then you see Bond, who gets to a bit of a dead end where he has to stop and that. Where fucking he sees Zal turn up, where then Zal thinks he's got Bond, where Bond sees Zal and that. Sees like his camouflage system has now restored. With all the shit that fucking... I don't think this camouflage system, if it worked, could not work under them seconds. But anyway, his camouflage system's come back. Where Zal, he's fucking... But yeah, it's a Bond film though, so the camouflage system is like fucking believable in a Bond film, you know. It's like, hey, they can't do that. Well, they might be able to do that technology now, but they couldn't do back in the day, back in like 2002 when it was released. Like, a bit, but maybe nowadays, you know, with all the technology advances, it could be possible. But anyway, Zal, he fucking gets these two spikes protruding out of his car, where then Bond puts like spike tractions on his car, that then fucking Zal fucking with his Jag fucking starts to drive towards Bond's Aston Martin, where then Bond puts the camouflage system on, where it camouflages itself invisible, where then fucking Zal can't see it, and it must have freaked him out because he don't bother braking, because then he goes right through the fucking wall and that, right into like another sort of balcony place that's on the other sort of like side, then into the fucking ice, where he smashes through and sort of like sinks in, where then you see Bond look like real pleased, and then you see him uncamouflage himself, where he's gone up on the side of this ramp, where in a Bond film the build sort of stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, that was too much of a convenient nice ramp. Probably they wanted to do it more flat and have it more sort of like crumbled down wall, but the stunt guys would have been like, oh yeah, but it's going to be tricky, that let's just build a ramp, and then you can just sort of like fucking make it look like it's supposed to be there. Well, Bond can't camouflage it. Oh, he not. Bond then takes the fucking spikes off tread, where they fucking go back into the tyre. Then he drives off down. Well, then you see fucking Zal, who's got out of the car and is swimming up to the surface, where he gets to the surface, where then you see Bond coming down, where Zal is there. So zoom out a bit. So yeah, Bond's coming down the sort of like stairs in his Aston Martin, where he shoots at this rope that snaps. Real good shot. That was holding this chandelier that starts to fall down, where Zol looks up to see this chandelier coming down, where he starts to fucking scream, where he gets closer, then just smashes into him, where you see all this blood and that, where it's like, oh yeah, he's fucked. He's dead. Well, then you see fucking the ice hotel getting really fucking melted. And then it stops. Because he's worked out like, oh yeah, that's enough to like drown fucking Jinx. So he stops it now. He's like, no need to waste good solar fucking energy laser beam power. Well, he like says to fucking his mate and that, yeah, the man and machine, it's still sort of like a bit too bulky. It's still like a case. It's still got to be carried around in a case and that. And he says like, yeah, I want something building that I don't have to carry around in a case. Well, anyway, then you see Bond's fucking like thermal, like heat sensor tracking system that's on Jinx's life support heartbeat sort of thing. Well, then you see it fucking disappear to a little fine dot that, and then it disappears. That fucking Bond's like, oh no, shit, she's dead. Well, if you didn't notice that by the fucking signs on the life support scanning monitor, it shows you that Jinx is dead. She's like drowned in. But anyway, Bond, he fucking burns down and that, where he gets to where the room she's in, and these glass doors are very fucking airtight, but but yeah, you never know. He's got a lot of money. They could do it like that. Well, he smashes through the fucking doors and that, where all the water fucking comes flooding out and that. Where then Jinx comes flopping out onto the fucking windscreen and that. Flops over in a very seductive position and that. Where Bond like sticks the ring where he smashes up a perfectly good windscreen, because he could have easily fucking like opened a fucking side, wound down a side window and grabbed her in. But anyway, he's in a bit of a rush because he knows she's dead and he's not wasting time. So he puts the ring on, smashes the fucking windscreen, where he grabs Jinx, drags her through and that, puts her in the fucking passenger seat and that, reverses back out then sort of bends out towards that spa thing where he smashes through a wall, proper like a Knight Rider shit. Does a right good fucking jump sort of thing. Lands practically near the fucking spa thing. Does handbrake turn and that. Gets Jinx out. Runs up and jumps into the spa with Jinx, where it's warming her up and that. Where that's a stunt man, and I think it might be a stunt woman and all. I think it's a stunt woman, yeah. Oh, oh fuck. Wait. Now it's Pierce and Berry, Halle Berry and that. Well, Bond's like, oh yeah, breathe and that, breathe sort of thing, fucking warm you up and that. Where he starts to kiss her, probably realises, oh no, shit, that was just muscle reaction, that I need to give her the kiss of life. So, he starts to give her the kiss of life, where he starts to rub her chest and that, and pump her breathing, where she comes back alive and that, and she's all like, oh yeah, well, hey, Tommy. Yeah, Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective. Doing a few guinea pig paw prints. But yeah. So anyway, he gives her the kiss of life. I mean, he gives her the kiss of life, got her back to life, then gives her a kiss and that. Don't shag her though. Hope all is well. Well, sort of. My fucking stream, I did fucking an hour and a half sort of stream, and then it fucking froze up on me, and the stream went down, and then so I had to restart up another stream to finish off the fucking Bond film. So I was like, oh, you fucker. It was a fucking bastard getting the stream going because the fucking mic wasn't working. I was like, oh, fuck off. Then it sounded a bit fucking crackly. Like, oh. Streamlabs, it's a fucking cunt. It's a right pain in the ass. But yeah. Anyway, back to the story and that. So yeah. Then Bond has the plane sort of like flying by, where he looks up, sees it sort of thing. Where then it's in the US Command Bunker Demilitarized Zone in South Korea, where you see Bond and Jinx or in a jeep that get out, start talking to Robinson, where Robinson tells them like there's 80,000 troops that are deployed on the DMZ, he calls it, but it's the I'm sure it's the demilitarized zone. That's the like sort of that sort of thing. Well, Bond says like General Moon, which is the dad, ain't gonna fucking attack South Korea and that. He knows he's gonna start a war. Well, Robinson tells Bond that General Moon got arrested by some hardline North Korean soldiers who are working for fucking Graves, who is fucking Colonel Moon. But obviously General Moon, he doesn't know that his son is Grievous Graves. You see it later on, but anyway. Then you see M talking to Falco, and M says she got misled by Falco. Because he said like Bond was giving the information away, but it wasn't. It was Miranda, because they find out now, because Bond's like told them, oh yeah, Miranda's a fucking double agent. She's working for fucking Graves, who is General Moon, with a face sort of thinking, well, M also says like Falco should have told her about the Miranda and Graves was on the Harvard fencing team, which he knew about, but he didn't tell M, so M didn't fucking know. And they're talking about some kind of agent in the Cuban clinic, but said something about fucking, well, the mole who find out is Miranda would have fucking killed him anyway. But anyway, M's giving Falco a bit of shit, and then Bond, oh fuck off. Then Bond comes in and that, where fucking Falco says, oh yeah, fucking they're at DEFCON 2, and if North Korea's going south, they're gonna go south big time and that, and they've got to clear out all of the world's biggest minefields, because like there's loads of bombs buried and placed in this sort of like non-military zone. Well, Bond and realizes, oh yeah, fucking that's sort of like a job that he's going to use Icarus for, to clear out the landmines. Well, Falco says, oh, it don't matter because there's an ASAT rocket launch going to be launched at Icarus and that. And so Bond's like, right, well, where is fucking General Moon Graves / Graves? Where is he right now? So M says, oh yeah, he's on a North Korean air base where they zoom in and that, and you see like where the North Korean air base is and that, and you see like the aeroplane and that. Well, say they can't do anything, but Bond's like, well, I can though. And then, oh, fuck off. And then like, Falco, he says, we're not going into North Korea because the president's orders, like the president of the United States has told him not to invade North Korea. Well, M says, oh yeah, well, I'm going to send 007 in anyway. So then Falco says, oh, I can't trust the British to do it. You Jinx, you go in with him. And that. So, like, they get put in the plane and that, go over to North Korea where they're getting these sort of like little glider planes where they get sort of pushed out and that, where they start flying down and that, where fucking they're a bit worried in case fucking they get spotted because now they're in North Korean airspace and they're looking at like all the fucking troops down there and that. And I'm not exactly which one's Bond or Jinx or if it is Bond, but anyway. Falco says like they'll be alright. They can't be scanned and that. Well, anyway, then they depart from their little like flying little shuttle things, and then start to parachute down. Where then you see the ASAT launch, which was a bit confusing when you watch it because you're thinking they're firing the missile at Bond. But anyway, no, they're firing this missile. It's the ASAT missile that the American defense base is like launching at Icarus. So you see that get launched. Then it's Pyongyang Air Base in North Korea, where you see fucking the generals and that, and Miranda with Graves, always fucking Colonel Moon, and his mate tells him, oh yeah, they've launched a fucking missile at Icarus. So General Moon come Graves says, oh yeah, well, put Icarus on auto. Tommy says, when does the shagging start? Bond always seems to do that no matter what. Yeah, apart from in No Time to Shag, the last one. But oh, it's already started, I'm afraid, Tommy. But there is a last shag at the end. Because Bond always gets a last shag at the end, you know. Apart from in No Time to Die, where he got killed. But anyway. General Colonel Moon come Graves tells his mate to put Icarus on auto fucking pilot sort of thing, where he goes over, turns on the auto pilot sort of thing, where then you see it sort of fucking switch on. Well, you see this fucking ASAT missile getting launched. I'm not quite sure what ASAT missile means, but it must be powerful. Well, then, seeing this, and Falco makes a joke about gonna be bad luck smashing this mirror, big mirror, and that. Well, you see the missile going towards Icarus, where then Icarus just blasts it, where you see it disintegrate and then just explode. Where they're all like, and visuals go down, so they're all like, oh, what's happening, sort of thing. Well, you see the air base in North Korea, where fucking Bonding Jinx have like got themselves nicely fucking at the sort of gate fence thing, where they're gonna snipe fucking Graves and that. Well, Jinx is sort of like the spotter, where she sees them and that, says, oh yeah, coming down, and says, yeah, that there we are, that's him and that. Where then Bond's like, right, here we go, where he gets a lock on, sort of thing, but just before he's gonna shoot, I think he's trying to take out two birds with one stone with this shot, but just before he pulls the trigger, he gets his sight blocked by a fucking truck and that, where the truck goes by, but by then he ain't got the shot no more. Graves has gone into the aeroplane, and so Bond's like, oh yeah, we need to get on that plane, where they start to cut the fence and that, so like running through and that, chase up to the plane, get onto the wheels and that, grab themselves in and that. Yeah. Then you see it take off. Well then, yeah, you see where General, Colonel Moon who's going under the pseudonym of Graves, tells the soldier to go have his father brought down. Tells him, bring my father down. Well, he has a look at the suit and that like his mate is like modified now. Well, then you see Bond going up through the hatch thing, where he sees like cars and the helicopter, so like in the cargo bay, where then Jinx comes up the little hatch. Well, then General Moon comes down, looks at fucking his generals, and that. Like they, so I look at him, don't say out. Wait. He has a look at Graves, who he thinks is just some kind of Westerner who's helping him out. Who then says, "Oh, Father, I regret our meeting had to be like this." Well, he don't know what he thinks he's gone a bit loony. And then he's like, "Well, can't you tell it's me?" Which obviously he can't really, because he looks fuck all like him. Well, anyway, his dad's like, "No, I don't know you and that." Well, then he says to him, "I always remember you teaching me this famous sort of like quote: in war, the victor, the in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won." And he says, like, "Yeah, you see, Dad, I remember that. I remember his art of war sort of like saying." Well, then the dad like knows, oh yeah, it's him. And he's like, "Oh, my son," sort of thing. "What have you done to your face?" But anyway, then Bond and Jinx are in the cargo bay where they're looking, checking, see if anyone, but they're in. Well, anyway, General Moon is like saying to his son, like, "It is you," sort of thing, where he feels like the statue of his son's face that he used to look like, and sort of like feels his son's face now, and he says, "Oh yeah, it is you," sort of thing. Where then Graves, he's all like, "Yep, it's me," sort of thing. "Let me show you, like, my invention. How we're gonna fucking kick ass and that. Take on fucking South Korea." Well, yeah, he puts his like goggles on and that. Then like sees sort of like the tracking system where he lines it up and locks on the target, presses like probably the fire button, because then it fucking starts to fire the laser beam sort of like into the ground, where it starts to fucking blow up shit. And then he moves it with his little mouse ball, where he can control where it goes, where he moves it onto where the landmines are, where these start really blowing up, and that takes out like loads. Well, Falco is like, if it gets to the 38th parallel, which I don't know exactly what that is, I think it might be sort of like fucking position near their sort of like position where they are. But anyway, he says hit him with everything we got. Well, them's like, oh yeah, that may not be enough, you know. Well, then Bond and Jinx like got up into the sort of like top deck of the plane now. They're in sort of like the passenger bit. Where you see Icarus's fucking beam just blasting the shit out of stuff. Where then fucking Graves goes on about Icarus can make a path, and if the Americans don't run, they'll be destroyed. Then goes on about Japan is a bug waiting to be squashed. He's proper gone on a fucking power trip. Well, anyway. Bond sort of like, and Jinx going to a room where Bond hears someone coming through the door, where when they open the door, Bond just smashes him in the face, knocks him out. Other dude comes through sort of like the corridor, where then Jinx, she gets out a throwing knife, throws it right into his throat. He's dead. Well, then they get to a bit where Jinx goes up to where the pilot is, and Bond goes down to look where fucking Graves is. Well, the dad tries to tell fucking Graves that like the US will like just nuke them and that, but you know, Colonel Moon Graves says like he'll just blast those fucking nukes out of the sky with Icarus. Well, you see like the destruction it's causing and that, where then the dad gets a gun off one of the other colonels, like grabs it off him, don't ask for it, points it at his son and that, tells him to call it off and that shit, fucking says you'll destroy us now, and Graves tries to say, oh yeah, well, I'm your son sort of thing, but General Moon, he's like, no, my son I know died long ago sort of thing. Well, then you see Jinx in the control panel, and you smacks a fucking dude out, gets into the pilot seat. Well, Colonel Moon Graves says like, oh yeah, you'll shoot your own son and that, well, sort of like, well, come on then, sort of thing. Well, Bond gets to where he's seeing this sort of thing, because he can see through the curtain like what's happening. Well, then General Moon, he gets his dad's hand and starts electrocuting him. Where then he takes the gun from his dad and that, and then he fucking says like, oh, he stops like electrocuting him and that, and says, "Father, you disappoint me." Where then he shoots him. Where everyone sort of like around thinks, fucking hell, that's a bit crazy. He shot his own dad. Well, he looks a bit gutted and that, but he lets his dad just drop to the floor. Then he gets a bit chuffed because he's got his dad's sort of bravery medal or some medal, whatever it's for. And Bond sees this now and he's like, fuck it, here we go. Well, Graves, he sees Bond, where Bond's like, here we go. Well, he goes to shoot him, but before he can pull the trigger, a guard pushes Bond's hand away, sort of thing, where Bond shoots a window where a hole appears, and then the hole gets bigger. And then like Bond and the guard go smashing through a fucking glass sort of panel, where then the hole gets bigger and it sucks fucking the sort of control dude who's Greaves is sort of like handyman who like makes all the stuff. He goes flying out. No parachute either. Probably dead. Unless he lands in a circus like Jaws did in one of the Bond films. Spy Who Loved Me, I think it was. No, Moonraker. One of the two. But anyway, then Jinx is sort of like fucking in a bit of distress sort of thing, because the fucking plane's gone a bit crazy and that. The altitude, the air compression's fucking gone mental, where everyone's getting fucking slung around and that. Like, the cars are getting like sucked out and that. Bomb grabs onto fucking someone, and so does Graves and that. But the rest of the fucking people and that just get sucked out. Well, Jinx starts to lower the plane and that to get the altitude lower. Well, Bond's hanging on and that, and Jinx, she's trying to fucking get the plane under control, but you see the plane fucking heading fucking very steeply down and that. Well, Bond boots Graves in his face and boots him again in his face, that he lets go, falls down a bit. Then Bond sort of like follows after him, where Graves is hit on a chair, where Bond gets on there and tries to like hit him, but Graves gets sort of like a bit of a block going and that. Well, you see the fucking plane sort of like levelling off and that shit, where Jinx is relieved that she's got it under control. You see like the altitude is like 5,000 feet sort of thing. Well, then a sword gets put in her throat, and it's fucking Miranda, who's wearing quite a skimpy top. But anyway, she's like, oh yeah, put your gun uh, on the floor, sort of thing. Where Jinx takes a gun out and puts it on the floor. Well, then it's back to Bond, where he's fighting, and that, where Graves tries to fucking press his like electrocution button, but he can't fucking reach it and that because Bond's stopping him. Well, he like shrugs Bond off with a mighty sort of raw sort of thing. Well, then Miranda's told Jinx to put it on autopilot, where she puts it on autopilot, but then turns the like tracking dial sort of thing, where the plane sort of like thinks it's going fucking like round in a bit of a circle, but well, it thinks it's going straight, but it's not. It's going round in a circle because she's turned the like compass sort of fucking thing a bit skew-whiffed, so the plane starts to like slowly turn towards the Icarus sort of beam, but only Jinx knows this. But anyway, Bond like fucking punches fucking Graves in the face and that, but gets a little bit of tussling and that, where then Bond like tries to break his arm and that, and then Jinx is sort of like at knife point with Miranda, who says she tried to drown her, but hopefully she'll get the point this time, sort of thing, making a bit of a joke sort of thing. Oh yeah, Bond winds Graves up by saying, oh yeah, I see all your friends bailed on you, sort of thing. Oh, yeah. Well then, like, Icarus beam is like blowing up loads of shit, like yeah, proper taking it apart. Well then Robinson says 1,000 meters, so I think the beam's 1,000 meters away from the fucking station they're in. Well, he just starts fucking blowing like fuck and that, and it takes out loads of mines and that, where it's back and you're blowing shit. Where I think it's got to a stage where it's right near them, because then all the fucking computers and electronics and that start to explode, where it would do if it's been fucking blown up and that. Well, you see the plane going towards the Icarus beam, where it takes out the pilot who got knocked out. He's dead now, which causes like an explosion sort of thing, where Bond and Graves sort of go flying a bit. Then Miranda and Jinx go flying, and then like the explosion happens real big on the bottom with them, because it fucking Graves goes really flying on the floor, where you can see the planes getting like disintegrating and that. Well, then you see fucking Jinx and Miranda having a bit of a sword fight, where Miranda cuts Jinx's top. Well, the plane comes out of the fucking beam and that, but it's still fucked up a bit. Well, then Jinx gets out a fucking throwing knives, throws them at Miranda, but she blocks one and then blocks another, which then goes into the Art of War. I'll zoom in. Yeah, the Art of War book, which Zenzi did, and that's yeah. Well then, Miranda chases Jinx, where Jinx does a backflip over Miranda, takes off her jacket, uses her jacket to parry Miranda's sword, so then she can roll down, grab these swords that she starts sword fighting with Miranda with, then elbows Miranda in the face. Well then Bond punching Graves in his face, jumps up and then boots Graves in his chest, where fucking then it's back to where Miranda and Jinx are fighting, where Miranda cuts Jinx's top, where you see it, she got cut and that. Well, Bond fucking blocks Graves' punch and boots him in the chest, where Graves gets pumped up and then boots Bond in the face, where Bond falls on the floor. Graves comes up, boots him in the face, goes for another boot, but Bond grabs his leg, then fucking gets up, start punching him in his face, where then fucking Graves turns on his electrocuting sort of fucking mechanism, where he grabs Bond's arm and starts electrocuting Bond, where you can see his fucking face sort of fucking doing Ghostbuster shit, but I don't think that happens in real life. You don't see that, I don't think. But anyway, then it's Jinx and Miranda or sword fighting a bit more and that, in a bit of a tussle, where fucking Miranda sort of throws Jinx over her sort of shoulders sort of thing with her legs, where Jinx does a sort of flip, gets a sword and that, then does a backflip, which is a real good fucking move by the stunt woman, because she was doing it with a backflip with a sword in her hand. Even though those can do that, but she did it well. Well, anyway, Miranda's I can fucking read every move you make sort of thing, where then Jinx grabs that throwing knife that was in the Art of War book, where fucking Miranda comes and does a swing of the sword right at Jinx, but then Jinx blocks it and then turns around and backstabs, backwardly stabbing Miranda right in the chest, where then she boots the knife into Miranda's chest even more, and says, "Read that, bitch." As Miranda falls down dead. Well, then Bond's getting electrocuted and that, where fucking is really fucking taking some punishment and that. Where fucking Greaves sort of like starts smiling and that, because he knows, oh yeah, Bond's getting really electrocuted. Well, anyway, he lets go of Bond and that, where Bond drops to his knees and then Graves punches him in his face, where Bond falls to the floor. Graves sort of like is really pumped up. He's like on a sort of like power trip, where he goes to fucking a cupboard, gets out 2 parachutes and that, and says, "Oh look, there's parachutes for both of us." But then like chucks one parachute out the window, sort of thing. Where he puts on the parachute and that, gets Bond's sorry about that. Yeah, puts on the parachute and that, gets Bond's sort of face and that, sort of tells him like, "You can't kill my dreams, but my dreams can kill you. Time to face your destiny." Well, Bond like sees the fucking parachute ripcord, where Bond grabs the ripcord and then like pulls it. That fucking the parachute opens and that, where fucking Graves sort of sees this, where then he gives Bond a look to say, "Oh, you bastard." Where then the parachute goes outside of the plane, where the wind catches it, starts to drag fucking Graves out through with it, where it proper takes him out and that, gets him sort of like in a bit where he's just hanging on for dear life and that, where you see him sort of like fucking grabbing and that, sort of like the side of the plane. Well, then you see a shot where fucking you can see the plane's wing and engines sort of like pretty much on fire, where then Bond gets up and that, strolls over, sort of like fucking tells Graves like, "Oh yeah, it's time to face the gravity," even though you see gravity don't kill. But Bond doesn't know this at the time. Well, anyway, Greaves sort of like tries to hang on and that shit, but then Bond says like, "Oh yeah, time to face gravity," as in, because it Graves said, "Oh yeah, it's time to meet your destiny." So Bond winds him up by saying it's time to face your gravity instead of destiny. But anyway, then he presses the like electrocution button, which because he's holding on to fucking metal, it starts to electrocute him. Where he gets fucked up and that, where he can't hold on anymore, he has to let go. Where he starts to fly back into the engine that sucks him in, and then just fucking blows and that, and then fucking goes out where, yeah, he's dead. Well, then you see fucking the buildings sort of like, well, not building, but the ground sort of blowing up, that it stops and that, because now the machine got totally destroyed in the jet engine, that is called off the attack. The machine in processing the fucking controls no more, so now Icarus has just gone into fucking standby mode. Well, you see this, like the Icarus just bump into standby mode. It's like, yep, no controls. I'm not receiving the attack, the fire signal. So yeah. Well, Em and Falco and Robinson, they're all like, oh yeah, fucking another close one sort of shit. Where Falco gets a cig out, sparks it up. Well, then you see the plane, it's pretty torn up and that. Where Bond goes up to the, or down, depending fucking wherever this place is. I think it's up there. Goes up to the sort of training room where he sees fucking Miranda dead and that. Where he's like thinking, oh yeah, shit, I could have had a shag. Yeah, Tommy. When she was still alive, Bond shagged her. Tommy says he'd like to have seen those fires at Disney. Yeah. Well, with the fucking shit they're doing with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, there will be a shit show fire going on. Well, Bond goes over, sort of like, thinks, oh yeah, bit of fine ass wasted. Well, then Jinx says, oh, I think I broke her heart. And then she says, oh yeah, it looks like we're going down together. But Bond says, yeah, not yet though. Well, then Bond and Jinx slide down into the cargo hold, where fucking Bond says, get the fucking back fucking doors sort of open and that. Not her ass, the cargo plane doors. Well, then Bond goes and like opens the motor fucking sort of like conveyor belt motor. Don't know exactly why he does this. I think maybe to check it to see if the motor's still working, or he thinks that the starter motor button is going to be on the motor. But anyway, he realises, oh yeah, well Jinx, she goes and fucking opens the back cargo door, where it fucking opens and that. Well then Bond sees the controls for the motor is on the side panel. So he goes over and that. Jinx gets in the helicopter. Bond turns on the like motor where the motor starts to fucking spin and that. Where Bond then runs into the helicopter where the conveyor belt is like fucking chucking out the stuff and that, like the car and that go. Then another car goes where you see like fly off, and they see the one sort of fly off, but yeah, didn't. But anyway, see how bad the like plane is and all. Well, then the helicopter gets to the end where it's like falls off, and that gets out of sort of like the plane, starts to like descend and that. But Bond, he's like, oh yeah, let's get this fucking motor going, and that way he's starting the motor up, but it's not starting and that. Where fucking Jinx is like, oh yeah, I told you I was a Jinx. Where Bond's like, oh, it's alright. I should have told you my relationships don't last that long. Well, anyway, you see it like falling down and that, getting to the ground. Well, then Jinx makes a joke about they're gonna die rich because there's loads of diamonds in the back. Bond sort of like fucking starts pressing the starter motor and that shit, where he gets it to fucking start, and that where the fucking propellers fucking start to spin, where he starts to pull it up and that, where he proper like forces it and that, where he's getting to the ground, where Jinx is a bit sort of, and Bond's like, oh shit. But luckily enough, they just fucking do it before they hit the ground, where you see the cars where they fall, and like there's like workers on this sort of like ratty rice paddy sort of field, where then Bond, he sort of like flies off and that, where then he says to Jinx, oh yeah, you said, what's that you said about going down together, meaning he wants a shag. But anyway, you see at MR6 headquarters in London, where the confidential Miranda Frost file has been closed. And then there's a bit of a cover up with the Freak Electrical storm ravages North Korean minefield. Yeah, observation plane missing, crew under unaccounted for, fire graze Fered. But anyway, covering it up and that. Well, you see, Bond coming, and it's Miss Moneypenny, and she's like, all right, James, and that. And Bond's like, oh yeah, Miss Moneypenny. Well, she gets up and starts to like do his tie, where they start to kiss and that, and you're thinking, oh no, Bond and Miss Moneypenny can't do this because it is against company policy. But anyway, she's like, oh James, and all this and that, and you're like, yeah, Miss Moneypenny, where he gets on her on the desk and that, where she's like, oh James, and that way it's kissing her and that, where then you see Q walk in where he's like, "Are you alright?" sort of thing. Miss Moneypenny's like, "Oh yeah. I was just trying out the virtual sort of fucking glasses sort of thing that Bond did his training with." Well, Q was like, "Oh yeah, well, it it's rather hard and that." And Miss Muppet's like, "Yeah, very hard," as in meaning Bond's virtual cock. But anyway, then you see like a fucking little nice island sort of thing where it pans up and you see the helicopter where there's like a little monk monastery sort of like temple thing there, where you see a little Buddha with incense sticks, where Pity Milton didn't fucking, because he'd have loved to have seen the Josh sticks. Well, anyway, you wear Jinx saying, "Don't pull it out," and that, "leave it in," where Bond's like, "Oh yeah, it's a perfect fit." And she's like, "Yeah, leave it in." And he's like, "Well, it's got to come out sooner or later." But she's like, "No, leave it in, and that. Well, then you see like the diamonds and that, and then you see Bond with the diamonds in Jinx's belly button, where fucking he pulls it out and that, and the diamond that is, and then starts to sprinkle some diamonds on her tits, and says like, "Oh yeah, you're so good when you're bad," to Jinx, where the kiss and get a shag going. Well, no, that's why they say, "Oh yeah." She, Bond says, "Oh yeah, you're so good when you're bad," sort of thing, to Jinx. Then they get a kiss and the shag going, where it ends. Where it's like, yeah, Pierce Brosnan, Halle Berry, Toby Stevens, Rosamund Pike, and Rick Bull, Judi Dench, John Cleese, Michael Madsen, William Lee, Kenneth Slang, Emerald Akabaya, Michael Cowboy, Lawrence McCoy, Colin Salmon, Samantha Bond, Ben Wee, Yo-Yi, Rachel Grant, and Ian Parr. And that, yeah. And then it's the fucking Bond will return, which I don't say which it was because it's fucking Casino Royale that it returns in, which is going to be the next week's fucking film review, which is like, oh no, the Daniel Craig ones, fucking shit. But yeah, there's a Die Another Day fucking film review on that. So yeah, I'd like to thank like people that was in, like Tommy, cheers Tommy. Oh yeah, it says, "I would like to have seen those fights that did." Oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. After they made Moon Knight, yeah, fuck it. I don't give a fuck if they burn down Obi-Wan Kenobi series or Shield. But yeah, only fucking soy fucking groomer enablers are watching fucking Obi-Wan Soy Kenobi. But yeah, there's a review. Yes, thanks to me. And on the part 1 stream, thanks to Fuck. Shit, can't remember. Oh. Well, yeah, thanks to him anyway. So yeah, next week, Daniel Craig's Casino Royale. So yeah, thanks for watching. Oh yeah, Tommy. Yeah, time to film some vids for tomorrow. Be well, guys. Yeah, you'll be well, Tommy. Cheers, man. For watching.